This is the second edition of the Maandamano Exhibition. This year, 2025, it's dubbed We the People. It's about documenting democracy through the creative lens.
Our forefathers came up with the brilliant idea that art is the mirror of the society. And today, we are here to tell stories of our society through art. And we are here in an exhibition organized by Power 254 to celebrate our democracy, to tell the stories of our society, and most importantly, to share the power of art in shifting narratives, empowering people, and education. Let's get to it.
So this exhibition has different sections. In one section, we look at the history of this country, where people whose lives were taken because of something that they stood up for. Others died in pursuit of justice. And that's the history section. In another section, we have the governance area, where we see images and artworks around issues of governance that show people exercising their democratic right to protest, to picket, and to stand up for what they believe in. We also have an animations and illustration section where people have created such incredible art. It's amazing. You should see it. You should experience it, where it speaks to what is happening. You can scan an image and everything starts moving. Like, you totally should see it.
I will start with the background of what this exhibition is about. So last year, our young heroes, the Gen Z, were on the streets advocating for human rights, advocating for justice, for democracy for this country. And they went to the streets with powerful forms of art, with powerful demands to the government. And thereafter, Power 254 came up with an exhibition to tell this story in a ways that can be documented and be remembered in history. And so today we are doing the second edition of this exhibition, dubbed Documenting Kenya's Democracy Through the Creative Lens. And we start with chapter 1. And chapter 1 basically gives an overview of what the exhibition is about. And we peg our reference to the chapter 1 of the Constitution that says sovereign power belongs to the people, and also give us the power and the supremacy of the Constitution. And thereafter, we walk into what happened last year. We go through the recap. And the recap again is pegged on the powerful document that we have, the Constitution, that gives us all the power as citizens, the powers to protest, the powers to hold our leaders accountable, freedoms that we are currently experiencing as a country. And therefore, I will take you through the recap of what happened last year. And this is how it went. And most importantly, we have also incorporated digital media in our work. And this here is an augmented reality poster that when you scan can be able to bring the animation to life. What the animation is basically about what happened last year, how the movement started, how young people went to the streets, the injustices that happened, and what continues to go on in this country. We move on to the second section, whereby we are talking about the same issues that happened last year, looking at what people were advocating for: high taxation, debt issues, corruption. There's even we can see here when the new taxes were introduced and people were even calculating how a pay slip could look like after the new taxation. And it went on and people went to the streets, and as we can see, people were on the streets here last year. This is what transpired as well. And unfortunately, sometimes during this events, some people got hurt. And as you can see here, despite protesters being on the street peacefully, some people were hurt. And here is an act of service from a protester that was on the street last year. And we continue to see, these are just basically pictures of people who were on the streets last year and basically what happened. But before we continue, I want to bring something to your attention, that despite all that happened last year, a lot has not changed yet, because as you can see, these are newspaper cutouts. And if I pulled out just one of them and read it, it says, "Shame of 283 bills stuck in House committees." Yeah, that is one of them. We have pending bills up to 188 billion in 9 months. And one of them that has been very, very bad for the past few months, as you can see, is that SHA isn't working. MPs now speak up. The next one is House of Impunity, killed in 21 days, grand cover-up, men who owe us answers, and it goes on and goes on. And ladies and gentlemen, that's why we are here, to continue to create awareness, civic education among Kenyans through this exhibition, so that we continue to advocate for justice for the young people we lost, but also continue to demand for accountability and transparency from the leaders that we have elected. Welcome to Chapter 2 of this exhibition, and Chapter 2 focuses on highlighting the grave human rights violation and aims to raise awareness among citizens about the rights and fundamental rights and freedom as accorded in the Kenyan Constitution. And if we take a close look at Chapter 4 of the Constitution, which is the Bill of Rights, accords citizens fundamental right to life, right to political participation, right to picketing, and even right to protesting. However, these rights have been infringed by the government, even freedom of expression. And today we are here to take you through this chapter that depicts what has been going on in the country. And so I will start with the first postcard. And as you can see closely, it says, say their names: Sheila Njeri, Mercy Njeri, Celestine Duku, Anne Kanairo, and Ivy Wangeshi. And these are victims of femicide in Kenya, and people were out in the streets just trying to advocate for justice and accountability from the government. And this continues to tell the story of end femicide in Kenya, which has now been happening over a long period of time, with a lot of women losing their lives with no accountability from the government. And we can see also a depiction of an artist, how they are feeling the rage on issues of human rights. Yeah, we are seeing extrajudicial killings, we are seeing femicide, and people are just talking about, you know, how people are being killed unlawfully. And we can see a young girl here angry with a Kenyan flag, and you can see the emotions going through her face. And this is really the reality of our country when you talk about human rights. And now people are angry, people are on the streets, they're saying no more killings, because where are we safe? Are we safe in our houses? Are we safe on the streets? Where are we safe? And this is one of the most recent photos where we saw the government bringing goons in the streets to burn cars. And you can see this is a citizen. And I want you to pay close attention, because this is a car on fire, this is a tear gas canister, and this is a live bullet that has been used during the protest. And we keep on asking ourselves as Kenyans, where do we go from here? How did we get here as a country? As we go through the human rights chapter, this is one of the most recent photos that we see. You remember Ojwang, the young man who died in a police cell? Yes, these are fellow citizens, fellow young people who are out on the streets to demand for justice. And their ask was, number one, demanding the justice for Ojwang. Number two, to stop killing us as citizens. And number three, asking the DIG, no, just resign. Because if you look at Chapter 6 of the Constitution about leadership and integrity, if you cannot uphold you know, the rule of law as a leader, then what else are you doing for us? You're not serving, you're not serving us as a leader. And so we go on with this chapter. We look at other forms of art and expression. You can see this is a Kenyan. He looks like he's scared. In my own interpretation, I could say this is a Kenyan flag showing patriotism, but then he's scared. Scared of what? Since we are looking through the human rights chapter, could we assume that he's scared of probably being hurt by the police, because that's what we've been seeing? I don't know. Let's continue through the chapter. We see another chapter here depicting you know, money on the face and everything. And I would interpret this as probably corruption. Yeah, corruption. And down here we continue to see other forms of human rights violations. And yeah, this is the chapter on human rights, and it's a sad chapter to go through even as you walk through the exhibition, because it reminds us of the losses as a country, as Kenyan citizens, and the need for us to demand for accountability, for justice, yeah, and hold our leaders accountable, and also for them to uphold the rule of law and respect human rights. Welcome to the next chapter of the exhibition. This is the history corner. And we cannot talk about democracy, liberation, without going back into the history lane, into the memory lane of the people who contributed to the kind of democracy that we have, to the wins that we have, to the progression that we have in our in our country, including even the current constitution that is very powerful. Let's start with Agwing Skodhek, a Mau Mau lawyer. This is one of the legends who heavily participated in defending Mau Mau detainees during the colonial period. Let's go through the other heroes. We're talking about Mahan Sain, a labor rights activist, yeah, who helped come up with the Kenya's trade union in the early 1933s actually. And so some of the wins that we have are because of such people. We have Otenyo Nyamaterere, a Gusii man who was very bold and stood for what he believed in during the colonial period. And we are having Wayaki Waihinga, Wambui Otieno amongst them. We are having Bernard Kirinya, Father John Anthony Keisa. In fact, they say courage beyond measure. We have Chelagat Mutai. We have David Sadera Munyakei. We have Siokimau, a great visionary man. We have Pio Gama Pinto. We have Thomas Joseph Mboya. We have Ramogi Achieng Oneko. We have Wangare Maathai as an environmental rights activist. We have Bildad Kagia. We have Dedan Kimathi. We have General Baimunge, and among other freedom fighters. And these people fought for our political rights. They fought for our social rights. They fought for our labor rights. They fought for so many things and some of the fundamental rights and freedoms that we have, including the Constitution. And so it was important for us to remind ourselves that these people died. Some of them died for us to be here. Some of them shed their blood. They sacrificed for us. And so to our heroes, we honor you. As we go through the exhibition, I want us to remind ourselves that the struggle continues. It didn't begin with our heroes and end with our heroes. The fight has been on. The movement has been on. The struggle has been on for a free country, for a democratic country, and most importantly, for a country where everyone is also able to enjoy their rights. And I want us to take us back the memory lane again, between 2012 to around 2015, where there was also a lot of activism activities. And the activism activities heavily focused on issues around human rights and governance. And let's look at the first picture under this chapter. This chapter exhibits pigs and they were eating blood. And if you remember the famous End Pigs campaign, this campaign was supposed to depict the greediness that our leaders had, the corruption in the system, and call them out. So it was a symbolic expression of what our leadership was like. And we continue to look at this. This was 6 December in 2012. We see an officer, here, that policing Rafiki, yeah? So it was supposed to support just trying to advocate for police reforms. But then we come here and see also another protest showcasing, there's a fat officer here, there's a thin man, just trying to show the kind of inequalities that we have, and particularly looking at MP's exit package, 15 million. And so people were just protesting against this and asking, how can taxpayers' money be used to feed leaders while the country itself is not able to even run? Yeah, why can this money be diverted into development activities, into education, into health? And so we continue with the protest, and this here is a very powerful symbol. Yeah, this is symbolism, and it's tried to showcase, and you can see these are caskets, and it tried to showcase the death of an era. Yeah, the death of an era at the time, and people were just trying to advocate for revolution around political reforms, around elections and whatnot. But we still see the issues of police brutality here, yeah. And we continue with the history. We look at what has been happening, and then we realize it didn't start today. It won't end today until we are all liberated, until everyone is enjoying equal rights, until everyone is able to access justice. As we continue to look through the exhibition, I want us to unpack this photo. And this is a very sad photo because last year, June 25th, we lost a lot of young people. As you can look at this photo, these are young people with flags, and there was fire at the side. And at this moment, we lost some of us. Some of us were shot in the streets. Some of us were shot in parliament. And so even as we go through this exhibition, we celebrate our heroes, but it's time for us to reflect. It's time for us to continue to speak for justice. It's not time for us to be silent as Kenyan citizens. Okay. Now, you might think that this is just a selfie gadget, a gadget that distracts young people from any other thing. But ladies and gentlemen, guess what? That's not the case. This is a very powerful tool, especially during a time where there's a lot of censorship, there's a shrinking democracy in our country, and there's a lot of repression. Why? Because the digital media has enabled us to be able to educate, articulate issues that have been very difficult to break down for a very long time, and most importantly, organize, mobilize, and reach out to many Kenyans to come out in large numbers and advocate for justice and accountability from our leadership. And so I want to introduce you to the next chapter, arts and media. And before I go far, I want to just read this poem and come along with me. And the poem is called I Live in a Country by Spontaneous the Poet. I live in a country where tears of fears of tomorrow go unwiped, where texts of yesterday go uncovered. 1 year later, the young people killed during the protests are yet to get justice, where poor victims are treated as disposables, where mockery takes center stage when a canister explodes in your face. And this is not just a piece, it is a reflection of what has been going on in our country. But I want us to go through this chapter. Looking at what we have a lot of digital media displayed, showcasing very many different things, starting from comics, illustrations by young people, just trying to show issues of governance around Kenya. And we have a lot more other comics, political comics, just trying to, show what has been going on politically now and in the past. And it uses a lot of symbolism, satire, storytelling, And that is why we say digital media and art cannot be excluded in this conversation. And the reason for that is because art ensures that everyone is included, everyone is educated, no one is left behind. Because guess what? Even Mama Mboga, who may not be as educated, is able to understand symbolism, is able to understand comics, is able to understand skits. And that's why we must use art and media to be able to continue educating people, shifting narratives, and empowering young people across the country to participate politically. And I want us to look at this piece. This is literature. And this is literature done by Power 254, titled Give the Woman Her Flowers, in collaboration with 8 other amazing female poets. And while this country is tough and everything is in a somber mood, and there's a lot of sadness, abductions, killings, all forms of human rights violations, I want to welcome you to ease in. I want to welcome you to relax. I want to welcome you to lay the burden down. Read books, enjoy comics, enjoy some music, dance a little, and don't forget that even in this fight, joy is an act of resistance. And we cannot stop, we cannot be sad, we cannot die in our somberness, but instead we will use joy as an act of resistance. We shall use joy as an act of speaking up. We shall speak as Kenyans on behalf of our brothers, our lost sisters, young brothers and sisters. We shall come up to advocate for justice. As we end this exhibition, I want to remind Kenyans that joy is an act of resistance. And in the midst of the pain, of the anger, of the sadness, of the defeat, I want to remind us that we still have a very powerful constitution that has fundamental rights and freedoms that needs to be respected by the government. And we want to remind our leaders that they should uphold the constitution and they are not above the law. And for the citizens, please continue voicing out the issues in our society, the issues of injustices, the issues of governance, and continue holding our leaders accountable. This is our country. This is home. Kenya is my homeland, and we must stand and fight for our progression as a country. We the people.
Corruption nasi twapiga line tukisaka 1 mil to function na gava inacheza kama gengeton beat. Maandamano sababu wana face ini land ya tax collector sio wa Kenya. Freedom of speech iko, freedom after speech optional.